Thank you guys for taking part in this. We want to show you appreciation, but show your husbands appreciation on Sunday. I have a feeling they have no clue, because last month was Pastor Appreciation Month. Here at Hope, we're going to celebrate that through November. But just so glad that you're here to take part in this so that we can show them appreciation. And it's our hope that they understand and experience that appreciation year-round. Just a few questions to help us understand that life extends well beyond what we see on Sunday or on teaching nights. If there is a topic or question you would rather not address, just say so and we'll move on. Okay? All right. First question. How did you meet your husbands, and how many years have you been married? And what I would like is for each of you to answer, but I hope you don't want to move on from that.
I'm Bonnie. I belong to Paul. And we met in high school, 10th grade biology is when we first started noticing each other. Yeah, when the chemistry began in biology. And so it was in high school, we're high school sweethearts. And we dated, got married between our sophomore and junior year of college, and we've been married 44 years.
My name's Christy, and Pat belongs to me. So we met in college, my sophomore year, his junior year, and got married a couple of years after that, and we've been married for 25 years.
My name is Vanessa. Mason belongs to me, I guess. I belong to Mason. We met when I was just a senior in high school. He's from a different town than I. It's a very, very long story that I don't want to bore people with. So we have been married 27 years. So
27 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it had a boring start? Is that
No, it's just a really long story that I'm sure if anybody wants, I'm happy to tell it. I just don't want to waste people's time on the camera.
So a natural segue is, how many children do you have?
We have 3, 2 boys and a girl. They're all adult children now at this point. Well, at this point, I guess I'm going forward.
What if you're not adult next year?
Sometimes you wonder, actually.
We have 3 children as well, and they are all adult children as well. We have a 22-year-old, 21-year-old, and an 18-year-old, 2 girls and a boy. And yeah, we are now empty nesters this year, so that's a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy, girl. 23, 21, and 17. We will be empty nesters next year.
Okay. So the next question could be a big reveal here, but how many grandchildren?
I guess that's only me. We have 3.
3?
Yes, and they
boys
all live
or
in
girls?
Grand Forks. 1 boy, 2 girls.
All right. Wonderful. So how is being a pastor's wife different than you may have expected when your ministry began? Were there some things that you came in the beginning, or you had this picture of what it was going to be like, and now you're living it? So
I'm going to be honest, I for sure did not have that in my growing up baby books that said I want to be a pastor's wife when I grow up. And even when Mason was in seminary, he was just going to Bible college. He was not going to be a pastor. So I'm like, okay, good. Still not going to be a pastor's wife. And as the time went on, when he was in seminary, it became more and more clear that that is where God was calling us. And I was just a baby, I feel like, when we started, 24. And I would say that it was in the first few years that we were in ministry that somebody had some really wise words, because I was like, I still don't really even know what that means. Like, I'm not a good cook. Am I going to be able to host all these people in my house, or what does it even look like? And somebody was very encouraging and said to me, just be you. That's what people want. They don't want somebody that you're making up or somebody that's different. They just want you. And however God has been building up to this point in your life, and how He's been preparing you is exactly where you need to be. And so from that point on, it was like, if they can handle me, then I can do this.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting because I grew up going to church, but our family was never involved in church. So I never had the role model of a pastor's wife and what the expectations were. So actually, and back it up in high school, I prayed that God would give me a husband that would go to church, because my dad didn't always go to church. And he answers above and beyond,
Yeah.
because I didn't realize that
I'll
I
go
would
to church a
be
lot.
living at church.
Someone that lives
Right,
at church.
right, exactly. So I really didn't have any expectations of what a pastor's wife does, or the role, of a pastor's wife. I mean, I had ideas, but I think the best advice that was given to me, actually before we moved to East Grand Forks, or to the church here, we went to a conference, and it was a pastor's personal life conference. And the biggest takeaway from that was, remember that you are ministering to an audience of one, and that's Jesus.
Oh.
And so I go back to that, okay, because you're not going to satisfy everyone. People are going to be happy, people are going to be upset with you, but what does Jesus think? And are you staying focused on him and his call on our life?
I was 21 when we got married, and he started off as a youth pastor. And I think when I think back to kind of the 3 churches that we have been involved in, I haven't felt from the ministry team leads, from boards, like any pressures as a pastor's wife to be a certain thing. It's like I felt like from kind of every different church in a different way, they were saying, we are hiring your husband, and we want you to be his teammate and support, whatever that looks like. There's no specific role that you have to do or you have to fulfill. And so I feel like not having those expectations kind of placed on me was just very freeing. Kind of like you said, Vanessa, to just be me, without the expectation of that needs to look a certain way. And so I think that's been really helpful and really freeing, just for us to be able to be ourselves and not feel the expectations, but to then just join in when we have passions and we want to, and it feels good, it's fun that way, versus feeling like there's an expectation.
Sure, set
And
rule or something.
to piggyback off of that too, I've always said, and Paul, he is who he is, and I think your pastors too. So knowing our husbands, I don't think they can have a big expectation of us and who we are.
We have to
because
put
they're
up with that.
real, right? They're real in who they are, and
Well, and I think too, it sounds like we've all been in ministry about the same amount of time, give or take, and there's different stages that we've gone through, from kids, babies and kids, and there are only certain things that you can be involved in because you're sidetracked, or your focus is your kids and at home and whatever. And so that was always freeing to me too, because people just, whatever you can do and whatever you want to be part of,
right.
different stages of life, you have different opportunities and time to do the things. So
So at the beginning, that question, with getting to that freeing place that you're talking about, that was different from maybe your own expectations when you came into the ministry, or?
I felt like I didn't really have a preconceived idea of what it was, but I must have, because I never really came to that where I felt like there was a certain mold that I was trying to fit into, at least, with the churches that we've been involved in. It just never felt like I had to be pigeonholed into this specific role. It was, I think, too, just the idea, like, we are hiring you as a team, obviously, but you supporting your husband is going to be a huge part of that, and that's easy to do when you're married to them.
Yeah.
And I think before I even had an idea of maybe what I thought an expectation, I was given that, like, this is it. There's no expectation on you. So before I even had I was 21, so before I even had a feel of like what I was getting into as a pastor's wife, it was like, so I really haven't felt a lot of I should fit into a mold or be a certain way, and as a pastor's wife. So
Good,
Yeah.
wonderful.
It's been pretty much the same here too. I always think it's that generation before us or before me that maybe had more of an expectation in the traditional role of a
Yeah.
pastor's wife, but
playing
the
organ
churches
and
we,
reading a Bible study.
right, teaching Sunday school, whatever, but but the churches we've been involved in, I have never felt that either.
Okay. Well, you're going to like this next one. And you may have heard this story before, but Ruth Graham was once asked, because she was a Christian, if she had ever thought about divorce. She replied, divorce? No. Murder?
Yeah,
Yes.
I've heard that one.
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges that you've been faced with through the years? Should I have sent that one before?
Just like in regards to with ministry involvement, like with having a husband as a pastor,
Well,
is that kind of what you're?
Not ministry
Getting at?
involvement as much as this is the bigger circle I'm thinking about. So when he comes home, you know, when he's with the family, when that call comes, I'm sorry, I have to. So, and maybe I've given you a challenge there, but
I think the biggest challenge is balancing ministry and family time. Because it's sometimes those boundaries aren't so separate, you know?
Right.
And especially when you're involved in the church and your kids are involved and, yeah, where does it divide? And so it all kind of intermingles and, but important to find balance there.
I think even more than time in our family, it's been the emotional toll. So sometimes comes home and I'm peopled out. Well, there's still people that live here. So trying to figure out, you know, I'm just kind of spent. Is it okay to, you know, allow for that space when he gets home to take a breath before engaging? Or sometimes though there's crisis when they get home too, you know. So trying to figure out how to balance the emotional piece, I think, has been equally as challenging as the time piece. Time is definitely something,
Right.
especially since moving to this church. I feel like, do I even see him? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
so busy. It's just a busier, you know, compared to the experiences that we've had prior, where, you know, it is a lot of expectation for time. But just as equal is the emotional piece of trying to like balance that
Right.
need, because emotional needs are a big deal.
And that's what-
women in particular.
Right, and I think too, sometimes, yeah, the physical boundary, you can leave work at a certain time, shut the door, church office is closed, but then, yes, some things come up. And I think the same thing too for Pat, sometimes it's just and he has said that before, like, I have been with people in meetings, in counseling, in whatever, all day, like, I just,
Yep.
it's a lot. And then I know that's taken a toll on him to then feel then he wants to be available for the family, he wants to be available for the kids, and to just feel the mental and the emotional toll of just the day, you know. And that's not every day, but it happens to where it's a thing. So yeah.
do you find that got easier to balance as the kids were older? Or
No, it probably actually got more difficult because, you know, the kids, they're a priority, so you carve out time for their activities and their schedules, and being home for dinner, that was a big thing that we had. He was home for supper all the time, even if he had an evening meeting. Well, now it's kind of easy, like, oh, you have a meeting, that's fine. I didn't feel like cooking supper anyway. You know, whatever. You know, I mean, because
You
there's
have
many
meeting,
there
we're
now.
meeting.
Right. So, you know, it's
are
easy
you guys
to
on
kind
the phone
of.
with Joycelyn? We need
Yeah.
meetings.
Yes.
It's
Right
easy-
around supper, I don't want to.
Right. But it's easy to let things, you know, slip a little bit that way too,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah, I can see that too, because, you know, now just empty nesting and, but yeah, when the kids were young too, I mean, those suppers were important and those
Right.
kids' activities, he wouldn't miss one of them. So definitely, there was, you know, balance, I feel like, in being able to prioritize family, and Pat did an awesome job at that. So I think more than the time, it's just some of the emotional and stress that I see as hard, you know, just the balancing of that. In that regard, because you are being pulled in a lot of different ways at a lot of different times, and so, yeah.
What qualities do you appreciate about your husbands?
Probably the quality that I appreciate is probably also the one that drives me the most crazy too, which is his passion. He's passionate about everything and all in, which is great and wonderful and it's fun and I admire that, but it also can be quite taxing because we're here and there and yeah.
And you're all in everywhere.
Yes, but it's, yeah, so
Okay.
that's a quality that I appreciate.
Passion.
Mhm.
Yeah, I appreciate Pat's wisdom, his faithfulness, his loyalty. I mean, he is kind of the same thing. He's all in. I know he's 100% for our family. He's all in. He's committed to the church. He's all in. And when he's all in that way, like, he's giving his heart and soul. And I appreciate his wisdom, when we're trying to make big decisions or we're working with the kids, trying to figure out life. He's always just got a lot of wisdom to be able to share, and I can lean on that, and I really, really appreciate that.
I would say
So-
all of the same things
I know,
as
exactly.
this. Another thing I really appreciate is his ability to kind of see through things that are, I always say, like the elephant in the room, where he can just spot things and like call a spade and find a way that in a moment he's like, yeah, but that's not how I see it. And so relax. This is a perspective that maybe you could look at. I just feel like he oftentimes just calms me down when I'm excited about things, whether it's with the kids or work and the business right now. If that calming, it'll be okay. He just doesn't, when it comes to things like that, he doesn't get excited where I'm at peace. And there's other things that he'll get excited about, but then I'll have to do the flip. Well, just calm down, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that he can just see through things and see them for what they're worth and address them appropriately and take the right emotion towards it or whatever it is. And that does require wisdom, which is, I think, the same. And the other thing is biblical knowledge. I did not grow up going to church. And so I've always appreciated, that was one of the very first things that I appreciated about him. It's like, how do you know this stuff? And that was prior to seminary. That was just how he grew up, and so he just absorbed that. And anytime I have questions, and like, what does this mean, or how does this, or whatever. So that's something I definitely appreciate too.
Has having your husband's partner in ministry brought you three closer together, a kindred spirit, if you will, and what does that look like?
I have the advantage now in life as an older adult. I didn't have that in the previous churches that we were in, so I love that there's other women that are really in the same boat as I am and having almost like our own little team in a way. We don't necessarily get together all the time, but there is that kindred spirit where you're like, there's just something that I know that if there's something that I need to talk about, or hey, what do you think? Are they asking too much here, or can I? I know I could definitely talk to them about it and ask. So that's something that I have never experienced up until this last year and a half. So it's a huge blessing to me.
I think when you said kindred spirit, I think there is that kindred spirit. Whether we spend a lot of time together, everybody's got their own interest activities, friends, whatever. And so it's not like we're, as connected like our husbands are on a daily basis.
Right.
Working. But we definitely have that bond,
Right. There's
Or
just
on
this
speed
level
dial.
of there's this level of just understanding. Like, we understand the demands, and you understand the demands at home. And I think as both of you are speaking, I'm like, yes, like, it's just, there's that kindredness that I think connects us too, because there's just this deeper level of understanding truly what we see in our husbands do ministry, and then like the aftermath sometimes at home too, and just the impact and all of that. And I think it does. We have greater understanding, and it brings us together. So.
Here we go. Do you have any specific thoughts in mind of a time when you felt your husbands were appreciated? Can you tell us about it, and what did you observe in how that made your husbands feel?
I don't think there is necessarily like that one point in time, I mean, there's many ways people have shown appreciation, whether it's, with text messages, words of encouragement through texts or notes or monetary little gifts. He's gotten like a box of crayons that was very meaningful because it connected to a sermon that he preached that resonated with someone. So that, was very meaningful. Actually, he's got several boxes of those crayons plus a Christmas ornament. That's, because it resonated with a lot of people. But, so there's gifts, and there's people who've given their time and, to help out in various ways. So I think all of those are just very much appreciated. I guess one general time was when we had been here 25 years and the church had a 25-year celebration. And it was a surprise. Paul had no clue it was happening. And so it was funny. There was a roast and people were, joking and laughing. I mean, and it was just a big celebration. And the cool thing is it just brought people together and people connected and in the church. And I think he probably, in a lot of this, is very humbled because it's like, what did I do to deserve this, or what did I, so I think humility is one thing that happens when he gets, various forms of appreciation. And then I think the other thing is it's something that spurs him on to the next step, because there's so many highs and lows in ministry, and you're preaching, you don't know if you're communicating, and if people don't share that or tell you, you just wonder, because there's no measure in ministry. There's no way to have any stats of how you're impacting people's lives unless you're told in a way. Yeah.
I feel like ministry is a selfless job, if you will, and so to look for praise or look for affirmation in order to know that you're doing a good job, I don't feel like it's any of their
that's what I was thinking.
characteristics to be, and so that's, I think, what made it a hard question to answer is like, I think, different times, one of the things that, as I talked to the kids, I'm like, can you help me answer this question? Because I really want, what do you say? And one of the things was, for Mason, just being part of a team, whether it's the pastors with each other or the next level team of, the office people or the, media people or whatever it is, volunteers. Mason's part of his ministry is the hospitality, and having people come and say, I'll help, that is appreciation to him. It's like,
Sure.
I have something worth being part of, and that response of, I'll be involved, is like, yes, this is so great to have that teamwork. And again, nothing that he's ever experienced before. And so that has been huge, and I can see it in him that he just appreciates the appreciation just by sheer, I'll be involved. I can do that, even if it's just greeting people at the door or whatever it is that he throws out there to be part of. And so I think the teamwork aspect of that's not really answering the question per se, but
I think exactly what you said is I think about with the desires that our husband have to just serve Jesus and to see more people love Jesus, when people show up to things, when there's commitment and when there's heart and when there's passion and people are jumping in and joining in, that's so life-giving. I feel like for Pat too, just so life-giving, and kind of like you said, Bonnie, too, there's tons of ways that people have shown appreciation, and I think whatever ways people do in their own, however they want to, is just very much appreciated. But I think one of the things that I can think about for Pat too, and I was kind of thinking about this question was, back probably maybe about a year and a half ago, that Paul was out for a while and had surgery and was out, and Pat and Mason really needed to jump in and kind of really step up and fill in and do a lot. And I know there was a couple notes that he received during that time when people were really like, hey, and again, like you said, it isn't the heart of our guys to need or want to be noticed, but sometimes I've seen that that really is it really fills them up too, to that note that was like, hey, we appreciate, we see you going above and beyond, and what and it's he's like, wow, that really felt good, in that moment, even though that's not what really that they're looking for, and they serve just when that doesn't happen, but it's just that was something I noticed that
Sure.
appreciated.
This is the last question. If you were comparing your life as a pastor's wife to an amusement park ride, which ride would it be?
the slingshot. No, just kidding.
I said the power tower.
Sometimes being thrown into things. I mean, oftentimes rides at an amusement park are unexpected. You're not exactly sure what you're going to get. And that is the same then at home. It's like, this is coming up, or somebody needs some, I'm going to go visit here, or I have to go do this, or I stayed extra for this, or, so. there's-
Sounds like you're on the whirly bird.
Yeah. Sometimes you're nauseous, no. I'm just kidding.
Corkscrew where you go upside down.
Yeah. Boy, I don't know if there's one ride for sure. I don't know.
The first ride I thought about was the roller coaster.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just up and down, there's
That's
highs
right.
and lows and all,
Yep.
whipping
Yeah.
around, and it's constant. I mean,
Yeah, there is a
Just
track
when
and
you-
you can see it expected, but sometimes
Yeah,
it's
there
like,
you go.
whoa,
Right,
okay, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
It
when you
takes
think
a
the
turn
road's
that you're
over.
not
Yeah,
quite ready
yeah,
for.
exactly.
Right.
3 times around, okay.
Well, let me wrap this up. I just want you to know that we do very much appreciate your husbands. It's to have men that take this on. This is one of the bigger churches that we've been involved with through the years, and to take that on and in all seriousness and strive to help people love God and love others, and to stay true to the Word, truly so appreciated. We feel it's important that you know that, even though you're not usually in the spotlight, we appreciate you as well. I'm so glad that you came here to take part in this. We do. We love and appreciate you. And I know that doesn't feel like it's from the heart because I'm reading it, but I wrote this, okay? We're thankful for the leadership and integrity that your husbands live daily, and pray that all of you feel tangibly how deep that love and appreciation are. I really thank you so much for coming tonight to the meeting.
yes. Thank you.
There we go, that's a wrap.